Question 44. Why is political participation of women regarded as a fundamental prerequisite for gender equality and genuine democracy? Name any amendment of the Indian Constitution aiming at political inclusion of women. Topics to be covered. 1. Introduction, meaning of political participation and its democratic significance. 2. Concept of gender equality and democracy. 3. Relationship between women's political participation and gender equality. 4. Why women's political participation is essential for genuine democracy. 5. Barriers to women's political participation in India. 6. Constitutional and legal efforts to promote women's political inclusion. 7. Constitutional amendment related to women's political representation. 8. Summary for quick understanding. 9. Quick revision notes. 10. One-line questions and answers for revision. 11. Final connection. 1. Introduction, meaning of political participation and its democratic significance. Political participation refers to the active involvement of citizens in political processes such as voting, contesting elections, policy making, and holding public office. In a democracy, participation ensures that governance reflects the will and needs of all sections of society. When half of the population, women, remains underrepresented, democracy becomes formally inclusive but substantively incomplete. Therefore, women's political participation is not only a question of representation but also a measure of the depth and authenticity of democratic governance. 2. Concept of gender equality and democracy. Gender equality implies equal rights, opportunities, and responsibilities for men and women in every sphere: political, economic, and social. A democracy that excludes women from political life fails its own foundational principle of equal citizenship. Hence, the inclusion of women in decision-making structures is both a moral necessity and a democratic imperative. As Jawaharlal Nehru rightly said, "To awaken the people, it is the women who must be awakened. Once she is on the move, the family moves, the village moves, the nation moves." 3. Relationship between women's political participation and gender equality. The relationship between women's political participation and gender equality is reciprocal and reinforcing. When women participate actively in politics, they gain visibility, voice, and influence in shaping laws and policies. They challenge patriarchal structures that limit their role to the private sphere. They bring new priorities into governance, such as education, healthcare, safety, and welfare that promote equality and social justice. Thus, political empowerment becomes both a means and an end for gender equality. 4. Why women's political participation is essential for genuine democracy. The inclusion of women in politics ensures not only equality but also the quality and inclusiveness of democracy. The reasons are as follows. I. Ensures equal representation. Democracy is based on the principle of equality. Since women constitute about half of the population, their underrepresentation in politics undermines the democratic ideal of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. 2. Broadens the democratic agenda. Women often raise issues that have been neglected in male-dominated politics, such as education, child welfare, gender-based violence, and healthcare, enriching democratic discourse. Example: women representatives in panchayats have prioritized sanitation, drinking water, and girls' education, transforming local governance. 3. Promotes inclusive and participatory governance. Women's participation strengthens participatory democracy by making governance more consultative, empathetic, and socially responsive. 4. Strengthens rule of law and accountability. Studies have shown that greater representation of women in governance correlates with reduced corruption, better transparency, and improved administrative efficiency. We fulfills international and constitutional commitments. India, as a signatory to the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, 1979, is obligated to ensure women's equal participation in public life. Constitutionally, this fulfills the commitment under Articles 14, 15, and 16, which guarantee equality and prohibit gender-based discrimination. 6. Challenges patriarchal norms. Women's entry into political institutions challenges long-standing patriarchal assumptions that politics is a male domain. It creates role models and inspires social change across generations. 7. Promotes sustainable development and peace. Inclusive decision-making that incorporates women's perspectives leads to more socially balanced and peaceful societies, aligning with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5, Gender Equality. 5. Barriers to women's political participation in India. Despite constitutional guarantees, women face multiple barriers to equal political participation. Patriarchal social norms and gender stereotypes. Low literacy and economic dependence, especially in rural areas. Political marginalization within party structures dominated by men. Violence and intimidation in political spaces. Lack of resources and networks necessary to contest elections. These factors make legal and constitutional intervention necessary to ensure women's inclusion in political institutions. 6. Constitutional and legal efforts to promote women's political inclusion. The Indian Constitution recognizes the principle of gender equality and has provided several provisions to ensure women's participation in public life. Article 14, Equality before law and equal protection of laws. 2. Article 15, 3, permits special provisions for women and children. 3. Article 16, Equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. 4. Directive principles, Articles 39A and 42, promote equal rights and opportunities for women. However, the most transformative step came through a constitutional amendment that guaranteed women's participation in local governance. 7. Constitutional amendment related to women's political representation. The 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendments, 1992, are landmark reforms that institutionalized women's political participation at the grassroots level. 73rd Amendment, Panchayati Raj. Added Part 9 to the Constitution. Added Part 9A to the Constitution. Provided similar 33% reservation for women in urban local bodies, municipalities and corporations. Significance: these amendments marked the first constitutional recognition of women's political participation and created over 1 million elected women representatives across India, the largest number globally. Future development: the 128th Constitutional Amendment Bill, 2023, passed by Parliament, seeks to reserve 33% of seats for women in the Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies, extending the principle of inclusion to higher levels of governance. 8. Summary for quick understanding. Women's political participation is the cornerstone of gender equality and true democracy. Without women in political decision-making, democracy remains incomplete and unjust. The 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments institutionalized women's representation at the grassroots level, empowering them as leaders and policymakers. This inclusion not only ensures equality but also strengthens democracy, enhances governance, and promotes social transformation. 9. Quick revision notes. Political participation, active involvement of women in politics. Importance, essential for equality, inclusiveness, and good governance. Barriers, patriarchy, illiteracy, lack of access to power. Constitutional support, Articles 14, 15, 16, 39A. Key amendments, 73rd and 74th, 1992, 33% reservation for women in local bodies. Recent development, 128th Amendment, 2023, reservation for women in legislatures. Outcome, political empowerment and democratization from below. 10 one-line questions and answers for revision. 1. What is political participation? The active involvement of citizens, especially women, in political processes and governance. 2. Why is women's political participation essential for democracy? Because it ensures equality, inclusiveness, and representation of half the population. 3. Which constitutional articles guarantee gender equality? Articles 14, 15, and 16. 4. What percentage of seats are reserved for women in local bodies? 33%. 5. Which constitutional amendments provided this reservation? 73rd and 74th Amendments, 1992. 6. Which amendment proposes women's reservation in legislatures? The 128th Constitutional Amendment Bill, 2023. 7. What is the impact of women's participation at the grassroots level? Better focus on welfare, health, and education. 8. What is a major barrier to women's political participation? Patriarchal norms and lack of resources. 9. What international commitment supports women's political equality? CEDAW, 1979. 10. What is the ultimate goal of women's political inclusion? Gender justice and genuine democracy. 11. Final connection. Women's political participation is not an act of charity, it is a democratic necessity. Democracy without women is only half a democracy, as it excludes the voices and experiences of half the citizenry. By empowering women politically, India moves closer to realizing the constitutional ideals of equality, justice, and dignity. The 73rd and 74th Amendments and the proposed 128th Amendment together mark a historic evolution from representation to empowerment, transforming Indian democracy into one that is not only representative in form but also inclusive in spirit.